When she comes back, the first instinct for most men is to react, to either welcome her with open arms or confront her with rage and betrayal. But neither of those reactions serves your higher self. The truth is, in that pivotal moment, your greatest power isn't found in what you say. It's in what you don't. Silence is not emptiness. It's not weakness. Silence, when used with intention, becomes your strongest boundary and clearest message. You must understand the psychological dynamics at play here. When a woman walks away and then returns, she's testing for something. Not always consciously, but deeply emotionally. She wants to know, did she still have power over you? Does her absence still control your emotions? Has your identity been waiting in limbo for her validation? If your first move is to jump to a conclusion, positive or negative, you've already surrendered that power. You've shown that her return dictates your state. But the evolved man doesn't react. He evaluates. He observes. Silence, in this case, is about mastery of self. It's about saying, without words, I no longer need your presence to define my worth. That's what unnerves a woman who returns expecting the same man she left behind. Because she's banking on the idea that you stayed emotionally stagnant while she explored her options or found herself. And now she's back, maybe confused, maybe bored, maybe genuinely remorseful, but definitely curious to see if you're still in the same place she left you. This is why your first response should not be a verbal one. It should be internal. It should be centered on grounding yourself, pausing and watching, not just her behavior, but your own. What comes up inside of you when she returns? Is it longing? Is it anger? Is it validation? Whatever it is, sit with it. Own it. Don't act from it. Because men who lead from emotional impulsivity become slaves to women who understand the emotional game. And let's be honest, most men have never been taught this. We've been conditioned to chase, to fix, to fight for love at all costs. But sometimes the fight is over. Sometimes your silence is the clearest declaration that the version of you who tolerated chaos and confusion no longer exists. And here's what's truly fascinating. When you don't respond immediately, you give her something that unsettles her. Uncertainty. She doesn't know where she stands. She doesn't know if she still has access. And now the balance has shifted. Now she has to reflect. Now she has to confront her own motives. Was this just another attempt to seek emotional reassurance without taking responsibility? Or was there real growth behind her return? Your silence forces clarity both in her and in you. And from that clarity, you get to choose, not from a place of desperation, but from a place of discernment. There's a psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement. It's the reason toxic cycles feel so addictive. When love and attention are given inconsistently, we crave it more, not less. Her return might be triggering that exact response in you. A sudden rush of dopamine, a high from the illusion of resolution. But don't confuse emotional intensity with truth. Real connection is stable. It's not erratic. And if her absence was built on manipulation or narcissistic dynamics, her return is often a re-entry into that same cycle. Your silence disrupts that pattern. You're not punishing her with silence. You're protecting yourself with reflection. You're allowing the dust to settle before you decide whether this is worth revisiting. Because when a woman returns, the question isn't, will she stay? It's, will she respect who I've become? And the man you've become should no longer hand out access without clarity. When you respond too quickly, you give her certainty. But when you pause, she begins to reflect, not just on you, but on the version of herself that left. And that's where the real shift begins. If she's truly grown, she'll wait. She'll show. She'll speak through consistency, not performance. But if she's only come back to validate herself, your silence will become uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, her true intentions will surface. So, in that moment, when your phone lights up or she's suddenly in front of you again, don't rush to fill the space. Don't mistake her return for a romantic resolution. Instead, stand still. Breathe. Observe. Let your presence speak louder than your words. because the man who is not controlled by his emotions is a man who cannot be manipulated by them. That man doesn't beg, doesn't chase, and doesn't break under the weight of a returning ghost. He listens, and only then he decides. Let your silence remind her of the power she once overlooked and the man she no longer has easy access to. When she comes back, the next critical step isn't about her, it's about you. And that step is reclaiming emotional leadership, not dominance, not control, but leadership. There's a fundamental difference. Most men, when confronted with a woman's return, unconsciously revert back to the emotional dynamic that existed before the departure. But that's the trap. That's the gravitational pull of old patterns, the emotional habits that led to dysfunction in the first place. Emotional leadership starts when you decide that your response will not be dictated by the past or by her expectations. It means you're no longer trying to win her back or punish her for leaving. You're not trying to teach her a lesson or make her feel what you felt. You're standing in a place of emotional maturity where your choices reflect strength, not insecurity masked as pride. Here's the true thing: when a woman walks away and comes back, it's rarely just about you. People leave for reasons rooted in their own unresolved fears, desires, confusion, or ego. Sometimes it's about power. Sometimes it's about immaturity, but often it's about misalignment, emotional, psychological, spiritual. And if she comes back, the question isn't just, does she want me again? It's, is she aligned with the man I become in her absence? To answer that, you have to first know who you are now. Who have you become in her absence? Did you use the pain of her leaving to evolve? Or did you simply wait in emotional limbo, hoping for a reset button? See, emotional leadership is forged in silence, but expressed in standards, not loud ultimatums. Quiet standards. The way you carry yourself. The way you don't beg for clarity. The way you don't entertain half-hearted apologies or emotionally manipulative nostalgia. That's leadership. Now here's where it gets deep. A woman, especially one who left and returned, is subconsciously scanning to see if she can still lead you emotionally. Can she still throw you off? Can she trigger the same needness, jealousy, or desperation? She might not even realize she's doing it, but it's human nature. We seek familiarity. If you were the man who once put her on a pedestal, she's going to expect that pedestal to still be there. When it's not, she's forced to reassess not just you, but herself. And that's powerful because you're no longer trying to be chosen. You're filtering, you're leading. Leadership also means clarity, not coldness. You're another wasted day. You're not here to play games or manipulate back. You're here to communicate with wisdom. I hear you. I see that you've come back, but I need time to observe consistency before I open that door again. That's what an emotionally strong man does. He doesn't react to declarations. He watches behavior. You're not chasing feelings. You're studying patterns. And if the pattern looks like the past, you walk away respectfully, finally. Remember, leadership isn't proven by control, but by detachment from outcome. That means even if she leaves again, even if she doesn't like your new posture, you don't bend. You've already lived through the loss once. You've survived the absence. So you're not scared of it anymore. You're not leading from fear. You're leading from holiness. This is what shocks women who return. They expect the same version of the man they left behind. But when they find someone wiser, calmer, more grounded, they're either drawn in and rise to meet that new level, or they get uncomfortable and leave again. Either way, your leadership brings truth to the surface. And truth is what frees you. Don't underestimate how rare this is. Most men chase love. Few men lead it. And fewer still do so after heartbreak. But the ones who do, they don't just get women back. They attract respect. They become magnetic. Not because of bravado, but because of alignment, integrity. Strength in silence. Direction without need for external validation. So if she's come back, pause. Step into the stillness. Lead emotionally, not by controlling her, but by commanding yourself. Stay grounded in your standards, your evolution, your peace. Let her rise to meet you or let her walk away. But don't let your identity hang in the balance, because a woman will only follow the man who's clearly leading himself. And if you don't lead your emotions, someone else will, and that someone might be the exact cycle you already survived. Own your leadership and let that be the lesson her return wasn't expecting. When she comes back and you've already stepped into emotional leadership, there's a deeper question most men never ask. And it's this: can she meet you where you are now? Not where you used to be, not in the past dynamic, but now, the man you've become after she left. Because a return isn't just about reconciliation, it's about reevaluation. And that's where emotional calibration becomes everything. Emotional calibration is the unspoken attunement between two people. The subtle cues, the energy exchanges, the rhythm of emotional presence. When a woman returns, she often does so with assumptions. She may assume that you've been waiting, that you're eager to reconnect, that the emotional environment she left remains unchanged. But what if it doesn't? What if you've grown? What if you're no longer reactive, insecure, or needy, but grounded, discerning, and focused? She will feel the shift instantly. It won't be in your words. It will be in your energy. That's where men misunderstand power. True masculine power is not aggression. It's not performance. It's stillness. It's self-possession. It's presence. And the moment she feels that you're no longer emotionally orbiting her, but instead anchored in your own center, something changes. Her respect heightens, or her discomfort intensifies. Either way, the truth emerges. Women are intuitive creatures. When they sense a man who is emotionally calibrated, they either lean into it with admiration or they recoil because it exposes their own lack of growth. This is where your discernment must become laser sharp. Because just as you've changed, you now have to assess, has she? Don't be blinded by the comfort of her return. Familiarity is deceptive. Just because her voice sounds the same or her words feel nostalgic doesn't mean her mindset has evolved. She might be seeking connection without accountability, reassurance without reflection. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into an emotional repeating patterns with a woman who hasn't done the inner work to walk beside the man you've become. This is not bitterness. This is clarity. When she comes back, observe more than you speak. Silence reveals far more than conversation ever could. What is she saying without saying it? Is there humility in her presence or entitlement? Does she acknowledge your growth? Or is she trying to pull you back into the old emotional contract? Where she held the power and you chased validation, you're not the same. You shouldn't act like it. And if she can't feel that difference, it means either she's unaware or unwilling to meet you where you are now. Emotional calibration also means you don't overcompensate for return. You don't drop your boundaries. You don't seek closure through her words. You already gave that to yourself. That's the essence of emotional power. When your peace is no longer on loan to someone else's behavior, you're not here to prove anything anymore. You're here to protect what you've built internally. And if she fits into that, beautiful. If not, you walk. Not from a place of resentment, but from strength. Understand this: many women test, not to be manipulative, but to feel the contours of your masculinity. She wants to feel that you won't be pulled emotionally in every direction, that your value doesn't crumble when she withholds affection or clarity, that you won't beg for answers when silence itself is an answer. She's not always conscious of this, but she's watching your emotional architecture. Can you hold yourself? Can you sit in discomfort without trying to fix or rescue her? If you can, she sees something rare: a man who has become sovereign, not cold, not detached, but emotionally self-sustaining. That's what makes her trust you, sometimes even more than love itself. Because trust is built in the space between her uncertainty and your unwavering center. And this leads to the final piece of this keynoting: emotional accountability. If you're truly calibrated, you're not just watching her, you're also watching yourself. Where are you slipping in to old patterns? Where do you feel tempted to accommodate her to keep the peace? Where does your inner boy still crave the warmth of her return, even when your inner man knows it's not enough? Calibrated men check themselves before they respond. They ask, am I reacting from fear of loss or from clarity of purpose? Am I seeking comfort or truth? That self-honesty is what separates the man who keeps repeating emotional chaos from the man who transforms it into growth. So when she comes back, stay still, stay watching. Let her actions narrate the story, not her apologies or her flattery. Words are cheap. Patterns are the only real currency in relationships. And remember, if she can't meet you where you are now, with emotional consistency, with humility, with accountability, then she's not your partner. She's a lesson, a necessary one, a powerful one, but a lesson nonetheless. Calibrate your emotions. Just another wasted day, and your future will never again be held hostage by someone else's confusion. When she comes back, it's tempting to slide right back into the old rhythm. Your mind might trick you into believing that if she's returned, then everything must now be right, that somehow the story has found its resolution. But in reality, most men misunderstand the weight of her return. They see it as a validation, when in fact, it's a test. See, when she comes back, what she's really doing is checking the emotional temperature. She's testing the waters to see if you're still the same man who once bent over backwards for her attention. If your core is still unsettled, if your boundaries are still flexible, if you're still addicted to her emotional approval. And here's the harsh true thing. If you fail that test, if you collapse into old patterns, she'll lose respect for you faster than you gained it. Because women don't fall in love with a man who needs them. They fall in love with a man who has mastered himself in such a way that he becomes unshakable, not in pride, but in presence. And that's the difference. When she returns, the most powerful thing you can dog is pause. Don't rush in. Don't reattach. This pause is not about punishing her, nor is it some manipulative tactic. It's a spiritual recess. I acknowledge your return, but I now move differently. You're no longer acting out of desperation, nostalgia, or fear of losing her. You're grounded in a new emotional ecosystem, one that's dependent on her presence. This pause also gives you something crucial space to observe. Most men react too quickly, and in doing so, they skip the data. But when you pause, you start to notice the energy behind her actions. Is she coming back from loneliness or love? Is she returning because she's grown or because she's uncomfortable being alone? Don't fall for sweet words. Look at her patterns. People don't change because they say they have. They change because their patterns evolve and their reactions become more conscious. So observe not just what she says, but how she behaves under pressure, when she doesn't get her way, when she's vulnerable, when you enforce your boundaries. And yes, you must have boundaries now, real ones, not reactive ultimatums, but non-negotiable standards for what kind of relationship you're building. Because when she comes back, the question is no longer, can I get her back? The real question is, does this version of her align with the man I've become? That question requires brutal honesty. Because let's be real, sometimes the woman who comes back is still emotionally stuck in the same chapter you fought so hard to grow out of. And if you allow her back in without recalibration, you're inviting emotional regression into your evolution. Let's make this even clearer. Her return is not the prize. Your piece is, you don't owe her instant access just because she's returned. In fact, your restraint might be the very thing that allows her to respect you again. Not because you're playing games, because you've become a man who is whole without her. And that wholeness, that is what women are drawn to at the deepest psychological level. A woman might be intrigued by your attention, but she's transformed by your ability to lead with emotional maturity. She wants to feel that if she steps into your space, she's entering a kingdom, not chaos. That's why when she returns, the energy you carry has to communicate, I am not waiting for you. I am open, but only to what honors both of us. If she senses that energy, she will either rise into it or run from it. But that response will tell you everything you need to know. Because a woman who's truly done the work will meet you in that space with humility, accountability, and growth. She won't try to bypass the past. She'll acknowledge it. She won't manipulate you back into the old dynamic. She'll build a new one with you. But if she hasn't grown, she'll resist your new strength. She'll try to provoke the man she used to control. And in that moment, you must choose clarity over chemistry. This is the path of the mature masculine. It's not easy. It requires self-control, detachment, and deep internal grounding, but it's the only way to build something real, lasting, and aligned. So when she comes back, don't just let her in. Let her prove it. Let her show up. Let her do the work. And most importantly, let her meet the man you've become. Because that man, he doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He doesn't regress. He observes, he leads, and he chooses wisely. Let her return be the test, not of her love, but of your growth. Another wasted day. And may your response reflect the man you've worked so hard to become.